The 2025 NFL Draft was an interesting one on many levels for the Kansas City Chiefs, not the least of which is if I were to ask you, hey, was this an offensive draft or a defensive class? Off the top of your head, you would probably think, oh, probably this is an offensive draft class. That would be wrong, actually. Yes, the actual huge names, the headlines from this class are first rounder Joshua Simmons, meant to bring an end, to the problems at the left tackle position. That's the first rounder for the Chiefs. The wide receiver position, which has long sort of been a thorn in the side of Patrick Mahomes, was addressed as well with a player that fell way past where it was that he was thought to fall in Jalen Royals. And everyone is kind of excited about Brashard Smith because he just, well, looks like it's going to be a lot of fun watching Brashard Smith play football at the NFL level. But that's 3 picks. There were 7 picks for the Chiefs. 4 of these selections were defensive players. And so this was a defensive draft. There were 2 defensive linemen towards the top of the draft. There was a cornerback in the 3rd round and a player that I have to admit I forget about quite often in this draft class, not through any fault of his own. I think that part of it is I didn't have linebacker on the board for the Kansas City Chiefs, but we have some quotes from Nick Bolton that, well, maybe should get us a little bit more excited, even if, and I'm just going to put some spoilers out there, I'm going to pour some water on some of the fire, but not completely, okay? We'll get around to that in a moment. But in an article titled, Nick Bolton Impressed by Chiefs' Young Defensive Trio, the Chiefs made a number of, or subtitled, the Chiefs made a number of defensive selections in this year's NFL Draft from Arrowhead Pride by Maurice Helston. We get the following from Nick Bolton. Jeffrey Bosa, the versatile vocal hybrid. Bolton had even more to say when the topic shifted to 5th-round linebacker Jeffrey Bassa, who's quickly become a locker room favorite. Yeah, Jeff Bassa, we joke around all the time, Bolton said with a smile, but he's like a mix between Willie Gay Jr. that was here and Leo Chanel in terms of just stature-wise and his play style. Boy, howdy, is that an alluring mix. Willie Gay Jr., the electric fast linebacker, and Leo Chanel, the absolute monster. Here's the thing. When you wake up and your nightmares go home to take a load off, they check under their bed to make sure Leo Chanel isn't under their bed. That's how scary an individual Leo Chanel is. According to Bolton, Boss's blend of intelligence, communication skills, and athleticism make him a valuable addition to the linebacker room. He's done a great job communicating. As good as anybody, Bolton said. Also, just talking to the secondary, he understands what people are doing behind him. Converted safety. Boss's versatility and background as a former defensive back also shine through. You can tell he's got a background as a DB, Bolton added. We made a joke about it one time because he's out there playing press like a corner. With laughter, he recalled Boss's swagger and coverage. He said, when we take 31 and put 35 in there, he might switch it out a little bit. But yeah, it's been pretty fun, man. He likes to play cover, so that would be great for us. Now, Nick Bolton is a very good linebacker in the NFL, very good middle linebacker in the NFL. Nick Bolton is not, just putting it out there, a talent evaluator, but we don't have to take for granted that athleticism equals football player. Right? So we'll get into this a little bit, but Nick Bolton said that Jeffrey Bassa is like Willie Gay Jr. and Leo Chanel had a baby. Well, here are Jeffrey Bassa's RAS numbers. 7.93 overall. It's a pretty good number. 6'1", 232 pounds. A little on the lower end for both of those. 21 bench press reps. That's not a great number, but a lot of guys don't even do the bench press if they're going to put up that type of number. So he gets points for competitiveness. 38.5-inch vertical. That is an incredible vertical. 9 foot 10 inch broad jump, a good number. A 4.63 40-yard dash is a good number. The 3-cone drill of 7.34, not a great number. Didn't do the 20-yard short shuttle. So you see here the athlete that is Jeffrey Bassa, pretty good athlete. Now, we have to take into account, so the total score, 7.93 out of 10. It's a good score. You can start in the NFL with that. I believe Nick Bolton's RAS number is something in, I think it's sub 5. So, of course, he's a middle linebacker, he's a run plugger, all these things. But it's possible in the NFL to get your starting position with a 7.93 RAS for sure. But that's not what Nick Bolton said. Nick Bolton said that Jeffrey Bassa was as if Leo Chanel and Willie Gay Jr. had a baby with a 7.93 RAS. That's a good score. Let's see what Leo Chanel scored. Here's Leo Chanel's RAS, 9.99. 6'2", 250, 34 bench press reps. Those are all, 6'2.5" is an 8.24 score, but the other two are over a 9. His explosive numbers, 40.5-inch vertical, 10 foot 8-inch broad jump, both over 9. 40-yard dash of 4.53 with a 10-yard split of 1.5 and a 20-yard split of 2.57. Those are all over 9. The 10 and 20-yard splits are a 9.9. Then you have the shuttle drill, the short shuttle, 20-yard short shuttle of 4.24, which is an 8.25 score, and a 3-cone drill of 6.98, which scores 8.51 out of 10. Absolute beast in Leo Chanel. But what about Willie Gay? So Leo Chanel has had trouble getting on the field. When he's been on the field, he's been good for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a little bit, I wouldn't say he's a liability in coverage, but he's not as tight in coverage as was Drew Tranquill's first season in Kansas City. Drew Tranquill, in my opinion, fell off a little bit last year. That might be why we're seeing Jeffrey Bosa come to the Kansas City Chiefs. Spoiler alert, by the way. We're going to get back to that. So that is foreshadowing. So you don't have to score a 9.99 in order to be a good football player on your RAS. And you also, scoring a 9.99 doesn't mean you're automatically going to start. What about Willie Gay? That was the other player mentioned. Willie Gay, 6'1", 243, 21 bench press reps. So those are all comparable to Jeffrey Bassa. 39.5-inch vert, comparable to Jeffrey Bassa. An 11 foot 4-inch broad jump, definitely the edge to Willie Gay Jr. That is an elite of elite broad jumps. Willie Gay had a 4.46 40-yard dash with a 1.55 10-yard split. Those are really good numbers. He also had good agility numbers with a 4.3 short shuttle and a 7.08 3-cone drill. So we're not looking at Willie Gay either in Jeffrey Bassa. He had a 9.7 overall score. So 9.99, 9.7. Jeffrey Bassa had a 7.93. And I promise I'm getting to the positives, okay? I want to put this out there because it feels like this portion of the video is getting a little bit downerish. So Drew Tranquill also had a 9.87 RAS score with a 4.57 40-yard dash, a 1.59 10-yard split, a 37.5-inch vertical, a 10 foot 2-inch broad jump, a 4.14 short shuttle, 6'2", 234, 31 bench press reps. Drew Tranquill was a beast as well, a little bit more of a testing beast even than Willie Gay Jr. So we're not looking athletically at any of these guys. But neither was Nick Bolton. And Nick Bolton doesn't come off the field, right? Leo Chenal, absolute beast, cannot wriggle Nick Bolton from his starting position. Can't jam him out of there. So what is going on here? Well, if we pull these things up, athletically, Jeffrey Bassa is actually closer to Nick Bolton than the other linebackers. These are Nick Bolton's numbers at the top here, then Jeffrey Bassa, then Leo Chenal. 6'1" for Jeffrey Bassa is close to the 5'11" and 1/8, about equidistant from Leo Chenal at 6'2" and 5/8. But he's 232 compared to Bolton's 237, Leo Chenal all the way up at 250. 31 and 3/8 inch arms for Bassa, 31 and 7/8 for Nick Bolton. Both of them have longer arms, slightly longer arms than Leo Chenal. Now, Nick Bolton has massive hands at 10 and 3/8 inches versus 9 1/4 for Jeffrey Bassa and 9 3/4 for Leo Chenal. But then you have his 4.6 340-yard dash, which is much closer to Nick Bolton's 4.60 than it is to Leo Chenal's 4.53. The 10-yard split of 159, 171 for Nick Bolton versus 150 for Leo Chenal. All of these numbers, now the vertical leap, 38.5 inches for Jeffrey Bassa, 40.5 for Leo Chenal versus all the way down at 32 for Nick Bolton. But you're getting an athlete that is much closer to Nick Bolton than he is to Leo Chenal. But that is just the athlete involved. That is not the football player involved. And I just went ahead and stripped some of the actual strengths from the scouting report on Jeffrey Bassa from NFL Draft Buzz, because they kind of line up really with everything I thought in the video that I made on Jeffrey Bassa after he was drafted. Coverage instincts pop on tape. Natural feet for route combinations and understands how to leverage passing windows with quick twitch reactions to the throw point. Now, what this is this is a very intelligent linebacker. So he's going to be able to put himself in position to win on route combinations, shut down a window, jump up and make an interception, be able to be in the way of a player crossing underneath so it won't get called for a penalty, those sorts of things. These are things that we also saw from Willie Gay, but Willie Gay was leaning on his athleticism many times to make these spectacular plays. He was in places that the quarterback did not think he should be because he was so fast, he was so explosive. A player like Jeffrey Bassa, who has an understanding of the game, will be able to be in that same spot because he saw the play develop earlier than the quarterback expects him to be able to. That is how a player like Jeffrey Bassa ends up looking like Willie Gay on the field, but he doesn't have all of the athleticism to him. Blitz timing jumps off the screen, disguises intentions pre-snap, and explodes through gaps with perfect timing to consistently disrupt the quarterback's platform. I will say that from the blitzing that I saw him do in college, one thing he's very good at is not getting hung up by offensive linemen. Will that translate to the NFL? There's a question there. I don't know if that is going to translate to the NFL. You're looking at a much different breed of offensive linemen in the NFL than you are at college. But I will say, if we see Jeffrey Bassa rushing the passer very much at all, I'm going to be super upset because that needs to be Leo Chenal lining up in the A-gap, just going hog wild. Fluid lower body mechanics and space allow him to break down, redirect, and accelerate without gathering steps that slow pursuit angles against elusive runners. In this aspect of his game, he really does still look like a defensive back. Former safety background manifests in his ability to run the pole in Tampa 2 coverage, opens hips smoothly, and carries vertical threats with comfort. Nasty hand usage when taking on lead blockers, creates immediate separation to avoid getting engulfed, and maintains vision on the ball carrier. I did not see that quite as much. I'm willing to accept that I might be wrong. Shows some dog in his tackling approach, drives through contact with proper shoulder leverage, and wraps up decisively to limit yards after contact. That shows up on film, and honestly, I think part of what that is two things. Number one, if you're getting there from linebacker versus safety, it's scary to play safety in those situations because you're running full speed for a very long time. Versus linebackers, you just diagnose and you're there. Number two, the added confidence that comes with being a linebacker and having a linebacker's weight versus being a 215-ish pound safety will help you pick up exactly what it is that you need to pop somebody big time. Defensive command center who processes formations quickly and communicates adjustments to teammates, and veteran confidence pre-snap. So again, this is a very intelligent player. Multi-phase special teams demon with unproven production as both coverage specialist and core member of return units. This is an important note because, guys, I think that's what he's going to have to do in Kansas City, at least as a rookie. I think he's going to have to be a core special teams player. He's going to have to earn his wages on the special teams, because here are the snap counts for Kansas City linebackers last season. Nick Bolton, 941 snaps, did not come off the field really, played 87.05% of the snaps for which he was available. The Chiefs usually go with one or two linebackers, as evidenced by the fact that Drue Tranquill was the second highest snap count linebacker with just 798, which is 150 away from Nick Bolton up at 941. After that, the third linebacker is all the way down at Leo Chenal with 445 defensive reps. 3 offensive reps as well, just putting that out there. But 445 defensive reps is a large step down even from Drue Tranquill, let alone Nick Bolton's 941. So what are we looking at with Jeffrey Bassa coming onto the roster? Well, I think immediately. So these 87 snaps for Joshua Uche are kind of imaginary. He was more of an edge player. But 80 snaps for Cam Jones, 7 snaps for Swayze Bozeman, 9 snaps for Jack Cochran, 25 snaps for Blake Lynch. You're looking at 120-ish snaps here. So you have to imagine all of those snaps end up going to Jeffrey Bassa. A lot of these snaps in this column are going to be played by Jeffrey Bassa. The special team snaps. One thing that is going to be interesting to me is whether or not Jack Cochran makes the team this year. He has been a long-time special teamer for the Kansas City Chiefs, has a few defensive snaps under his belt, and that might just be the role that Jeffrey Bassa has to come in and play. So I think when we're looking at this, right, Leo Chenal is going to be entering his final year of his rookie contract. Nick Bolton, he doesn't earn a whole lot of money right now. Nick Bolton is paid for a linebacker. Drue Tranquill is making decent money for a linebacker, pretty good money for a linebacker in today's NFL. These other guys are basically, they're all UDFA. Blake Lynch was, I believe, a UDFA and a free agent. Jack Cochran, UDFA. Swayze Bozeman, UDFA by the Chargers, I believe, right? Cam Jones, Cole Christensen was a UDFA for the Chargers. Swayze Bozeman and Cam Jones, both UDFAs for the Kansas City Chiefs. So the depth at linebacker is basically all UDFA guys. Here's what I think might be the play here. This is Drue Tranquill's contract situation with the Kansas City Chiefs. He is going to be a Kansas City Chief in 2025. There is a 9.75 dead cap number should he be cut this season. But Drue Tranquill did not perform up to expectations last season, did not perform up to what it was that he had how it was that he had played in his first season with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think this acquisition of Jeffrey Bassa might be the move necessary to say, well, at the end of 2025, Drue Tranquill will be heading towards 31 years old. They will have a dead cap number of just $1.5 million if they let him go. You're getting a player with similar strengths to what it was that Drue Tranquill was brought in to do. So it might be that what we see here is we might see Drue Tranquill cut at the end of this year. Leo Chenal Leo Chenal's last season on his contract is this season. We might see him graduate to getting that second paid linebacker position. And then you would have Jeffrey Bassa sneak into that third linebacker role, which is the role for the still cheap linebacker. So I think that might be what we're doing here with Jeffrey Bassa. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.